Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Krish Dunham. On behalf of SkyPass Entertainment and Fathom Events, I'd like to welcome you to a post-panel discussion on this amazing movie you just saw. With me are Ravi Zacharias, Christian apologist, and Sherry Rigby, who plays the role of Gladys Staines in the movie. We're going to unpack some critical issues, and I'm going to ask them a few questions about their own take on the movie and how best we can further the gospel of Jesus Christ in the call and commission we have been asked to come to. Well, I'm going to start with Ravi. You began on the mission field almost 40 plus years ago, starting with your earlier days in Vietnam. When you saw this movie, what grabbed you about the whole mission movement?
I think the reactions were many, Krish. As I watched it, it was late in the evening, and the first thing I learned was don't watch such a powerful movie before going to bed, because it really plays on your mind, especially when you know the backdrop is true. It's a story of a life and all the price that one family paid, which is not often the case, but it was very real. I think the element of surprise after surprise after surprise, but staying real, how the story unfolds, made a profound impact on my life. I'm hoping this movie will be seen not just by a few thousands, but I hope a few millions, because it's a real story with a real message of eternal values, and it could be life-changing.
Sherry, you actually had to deal with the people on the set, and this was your first time in what we call our motherland. So what was, you had a very powerful story on set for when you actually dealt with the issue of leprosy.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Krish. I'm super excited to be here and share the story with you. And India literally changed my life. I never realized that I would be on set with actual lepers and working with them. And they were some of the most beautiful people that I had ever met. And there was a particular scene that you're talking about where we were up in Orissa, and we were in an actual leprosy home where Graham and Gladys had actually been and worked. And we were in this very small, compact room. And we were getting ready to go into this scene where I was going to be working on one of the women that had leprosy and taking care of her infected foot. And so I was sitting there, I had my gloves on and the antiseptic and all of this. And as we rolled camera, right as we were about to roll camera, they brought this beautiful woman in. She sat before me, and they put her foot up in front of my face, and I literally could smell death. And I just sat there for a second, and I was just absolutely unprepared for this moment. And I said, stop everything, and went running out to my husband. And I said, I don't think I can do this. He said, you absolutely can do this. This is why God brought you here. And he prayed for me. And I went back into that room, and God just spoke to my heart, and he said, I love these feet. And in that moment, the aroma, this beautiful fragrance, entered into the room. Death was gone, and he was there. And I'll never forget even the cameraman, not a Christian, not a believer, people around. They could smell a difference. They could see a difference. To me, I knew it was the Holy Spirit. To them, they knew something else was happening. And I'll never forget that moment. I have literally heard the voice of the Lord say to me, I love these feet, and to remind me of the most precious people that he adores. And I had an opportunity to be with them and walk with them. What an incredible experience.
And I think, Krish, that's important, what Sherry has just said. And I think that's the story of Graham Staines. He saw them made in the image of God, marred with this disease and sickness, and went to make them better and help. The story is of people struggling with this, and a person coming to help, ultimately because of the person of Jesus Christ. We must remember these are people. And when you see that, it changes everything.
Well, I appreciate both the sentiments that were conveyed, having been on the set in India and having followed the script from the very beginning. When Sherry talked about the actual lepers on set, I wanted you to know that every effort was made to create authenticity, not not to create any kind of direness, but to create a reality, as Ravi pointed out, that these are people. And ultimately, the Great Commission calls us to share the gospel, but the Great Commandment calls us to love them. So going with that same angle, I'll have both of you address the same issue. When we are called to this missional, what advice can we give to people to pick up this causation in this time? Because this is a real life story that took place just 20 years ago.
Serving God is not a job. A job is something from which you can walk away. Serving God, no matter where it is, whether you're an engineer and called to serve, whether you're a builder of roads and called to serve, nothing is more sacred than the other if you're serving God. Every calling is sacred. So I would just say this: see your calling as that which is of God and serve wherever the greatest need is. We're living in a broken world. We're living in a heartbreaking world. So a lot of darkness. Light is needed, and that light is best shown by a life that is lived out. In a calling, the door is not locked from the inside, it's locked from the outside. And when you honor God with your call, He has promised, them that honor me will I also honor. And what greater accolade than the divine accolade, well done.
Well, Sherry, a take on the same question. I had the privilege of meeting Gladys real life for the 15th anniversary of Graham. But in you, I saw her again. What transformation did you have to go through to take on a modern-day angel?
I do always the best that I can to take a script, digest it, but really I have to lay it before God, because ultimately at the end of it is I have about this much talent and all the rest is His. He's given me everything that I could have ever asked for, and so He is the one that has to bring that character to life the way that He sees that character that needs to, whatever the message is at the end of that film. And so I think that message with Gladys was that she really was a woman that desired to serve God first, to serve her husband, to serve her children, and ultimately to serve the people with leprosy in India. She valued their lives. In fact, I really believe that she put them above herself way more. And to me, that is something that just when you talk about being an angel, that's the greatness of who Gladys is. Literally, God transformed me from the inside out to give me an opportunity to play Gladys Staines.
Ravi, I wanted to ask you, you have always talked about the historicity of missions and the need. For those who have watched this movie and are wondering what can they do, besides tell others to watch it, obviously, what can they do to pick up the mantle of a man like Graham, who for 35 years selflessly gave of himself, not expecting that outcome? But you have always been at the motivational forefront because you're a living example of someone who has never stopped going.
You know, Krish, I've been in Christian apologetics work now for nearly half a century. It's a long time, but it's been a beautiful tapestry from the Lord. It's not been free from challenges, not free from climbing steep hills, but the price that people like Graham pay is, of course, the ultimate price, and the price that Gladys paid. People just imagine a mother who's suddenly faced with the news that you've lost 2 of your boys and you've lost your husband. For the sake of a mission and a call, it's huge. You know, we cannot put it into words. We cannot even say, I know how you feel. But what I've noticed is with those who do go and answer such a call, there is a death to self involved in this. And it starts with the cross. The cross of Jesus Christ is the centerpiece of the gospel. There is no other worldview that has the cross as its centerpiece, because in the cross converge all of the absolutes we look for: evil, justice, love, forgiveness. All of these are abstract ideas till we come to the cross of Jesus Christ and see how they coalesced in His sacrifice. So to the young especially, I say, this is a message worthy of your calling. You ought to bring yourself to surrender yourself to Christ, whatever the cost is. And when you take that message, you will find out that this is not the message of death. This is, in fact, the message of life. That's why Graham was willing to pay with his life, because he knew where his eternal destiny was. And that's why Gladys was willing to say, I forgive you. The whole message of Jesus Christ, that's the way ministers, even from government, responded after the response of Gladys, that this is the glimpse of the Christian faith that they had seen, that they'd never seen anywhere else, when her words were so well portrayed by Sherry in the movie, I forgive them.
So as we bring this discussion to a close, we'll give a couple of final thoughts. What did you enjoy about those kids who we lucked out to finding three kids of the same age who were siblings, and they were from Australia? So what was it like? What was their thing on the set?
That's such a great way to end this. You know what? I fell in love with them, and I had these precious children sitting in front of me. And really, I think the cool thing is they were working with me all the time with my dialect. They were trying, okay, say it like this, say it like that. And so we just had the best time. And, you can't help but to fall in love with these children. And that's how I felt. Their mother and, their sister actually is who plays Esther.
Right.
And just the kindness and the goodness and who they were, and they were just all in. And I watched them out on the field playing, cricket with the other kids and the kids that lived in the home and stuff. And I thought, you are just the perfect representation of light and salt that needs to be, that people just look at you and go, oh my gosh, I need to know why, and they were just so fun.
But here's your one thing that I've always wanted to ask you throughout this entire journey. Until yesterday, you didn't say I was your friend, so I thought I'd ask it now. Imagine Gladys sitting right here. What would you say to her?
Oh, that's tough. Krish, whew. I think I would say to her that I'm honored to have been able to play a woman like you. I would have said, I am so thankful that you gave your life to serve some of the most beautiful people that have ever walked this earth. Thank you for showing a side of forgiveness that most of us don't get to see. There's always so many things attached. In fact, I could not get my head around how she could be, in that moment, so full of forgiveness for something that was so devastating. But yet her love for God and for the people of India and the people that stood there, she knew exactly what forgiveness was about. And I hope this story of her and who she was as a woman and is as a woman will deliver that powerful message of forgiveness, because ultimately that's what this is all about. So she, even without meeting her, she absolutely transformed my life.
Sir, for the leaders who have just watched this movie, the pastors, the pastoral staff, the folks who have an influence within their congregations, to bring out people to reawaken this, what would be your missive to them?
I would say the takeaway from this is a marvelous illustration of what the gospel is all about. Forgiveness is never cheap. Somebody has to pay the price, and oftentimes you bear it on yourself. Christ is the one who bore it all for all of humanity, and that's the leverage point of this story. My heart goes out with gratitude to all of you who across the centuries have come to our beloved nation and gone to the least of those amongst us. And I believe that message of Christ is what the whole world needs today, not only propositionally, but embodied. And so you've got people like Henry Martin, who went to India, Adoniram Judson, William Carey, Graham Staines, C.T. Studd. All of their stories are writ large in the Westminster Abbey of missionary work. India is rich with the story of great missions, and Graham Staines was one amongst those heroes. And Gladys, if you're watching, thank you for the price you've paid, and many others have. We have a debt that we can never repay, but we have a heart full of gratitude. And to the executive producer, Victor Abraham, who is a good friend of mine, I want to say a heartfelt thank you for your vision and your courage in presenting this to the world. We will be blessed because of what you have done through the means of this story.
Yes.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our discussion, and we thank you for staying back to watch this panel discussion. The insights of course, the world-famous Christian apologist Ravi Zacharias. Very proud to have him here. Sherry, an established star, but watch out for her in the years ahead. She will be a shining light for the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Krish Dunham, and all I am is a layperson who says this: 2/3 of the word God is go. And we hope this movie will make you go do something for the causation of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Good night. God bless.